Well, with us now for more on what's happening in this war and what may come after is Jason Greenblatt. He was the White House special envoy to the Middle East under President Trump. Welcome to the 700 Club.
Thank you for having me.
What's your assessment of how Israel is handling the war? There seems to be a lot of critique, whether from the UN or from other Arab nations. What's your take?
Well, first of all, the UN has just about zero credibility when it comes to Israel. We've seen that over decades of statements and resolutions coming out of the UN. I think they're doing the best job that they possibly can when they're fighting an enemy who is embedded within civilian society, within civilian infrastructure, a terrorist group who cares nothing about human life, not Israelis, obviously, and even not Palestinians. So I think they're doing as good a job as they can under extraordinarily challenging circumstances.
Well, President Biden just asked for a two-state solution, which I'm kind of amazed that in the middle of this he's saying that. My point of view is, frankly, an old one. The Arabs have never refused an opportunity to refuse an opportunity. So do you think that it's realistic to even talk about a two-state solution right now?
No, I don't. And look, I think President Biden is doing a great job when it comes to defending Israel's rights. And on the world stage, has really done an excellent job. But when it comes to this, and there's some other criticism I have, certainly now is not the time to talk about any form of peace agreement. Two-state solution is not even a term I like to use because it's so vague. And there was polling released yesterday with a small sampling of Palestinians. But it's a very dismal poll, which shows that most Palestinians either support what happened on October 7th, the atrocious barbaric attacks, or they want one state just themselves with no state of Israel. So the polling suggests that President Biden is way off on this. And regardless, it's going to take a long time to build trust and to assure Israel that something like this can never happen again.
Well, I agree with you on the Biden administration, and I absolutely applaud just how strong they've been with the carrier groups and making it quite clear that the war should never expand. I think that was part of the plot of Hamas. They were trying to get Israel into an urban war, and then I think they hoped Hezbollah would attack. So, but let's look at something very specific. The Biden administration extended a waiver on Iran sanctions, and it could free up $10 billion. And my view is Iran, it just gives them more money to spend on terrorism. What's your view of the White House policy on Iran?
No, I agree. I mean, the failure to recognize that at the end of the day, the Iranian regime is the main source of trouble in the Middle East, not just Israel, of course, but they want to eradicate Israel, but all the other countries. Unless the Biden administration is willing to confront Iran, not necessarily militarily. First, let's admit it. The Iranian regime is responsible here. And until they do that, we're just going to keep going through this cycle. What they're trying to do is take the temperature down. They're trying to protect Israel. Well, good. I respect that. I agree with it. I applaud it. But they're missing one key piece, which is their failure to recognize what the Iranian regime is doing. And I think this release of funds is just going to give the Iranian regime a whole host of pockets to fill to foment terrorism against Israel, against our Arab allies, and really around the world.
What's the long-term future of Gaza? I know that's a really broad question, but you know, there's a lot of, can Israel control it? Should Israel control it? Should the UN get involved? What, in your view, is the best way forward for Gaza after the war?
Well, first of all, if Israel is successful at rooting out Hamas, and you know, it's a big if, but if they are, of course, that's much better for Israel, but it's also much better for the Palestinians living there. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel will have to have some form of overriding security control that is not to the liking of the Biden administration. But unless the Biden administration or others can assure Israel that there will be an alternate mechanism to make sure that Hamas 2.0 and 3.0 don't rise and create more October 7th and otherwise attack Israel, I'm not sure that we have a choice. I don't think the UN can be trusted. I don't think they should be involved. But I would say that approaching our Arab friends and allies in the region, working together with Israel, maybe we could come up with a mechanism where Israel's presence is there, but not significantly so. The Arabs are helping to build and secure Gaza, and Palestinians could thrive and prosper until I should say, maybe there'll be a full-blown peace agreement with Israel down the road, and then all Palestinians could thrive and prosper. But unless somebody could assure Israel that there'll be a mechanism in place to prevent what's happened, I don't know that anybody really has a choice.
Well, you were one of the architects of the Abraham Accords, and I'm really encouraged to hear you say there could be an architecture for Gaza going forward. You wrote about creating the Abraham Accords in your book, In the Path of Abraham. I actually view the Abraham Accords as one of the prime targets of Hamas, that they launched this in order to stop Saudi Arabia. And I thought that the Accords would actually dissolve under the current war, but they've held strong. So how do you think, what's the future here? Are the Arab nations going to say, we completely reject Hamas, Israel is part of our history, it will be part of our future, we want peace with Israel? Is that the end result of all of this?
Well, I think we should applaud the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, who have stuck by the Abraham Accords. The UAE in particular has said some very strong statements after October 7 about the Abraham Accords. And yes, I believe they'll continue to stick with it. And I do think down the road, hopefully countries like Saudi Arabia and others will eventually be able to say publicly, but we all know their feeling, which is Hamas, the Iranian regime, terrorists funded and controlled by the Iranian regime, are all enemies of the region. And unless and until we root all of them out, and Saudi Arabia could continue with its plans, and the UAE and all these countries that have these amazing things going on, none of them are safe. Maybe a little bit more safe than Israel, but none of them are safe, while Hamas and the Iranian regime are running around, and Hezbollah and the Houthi terrorists as well.
Well, Jason Greenblatt, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for all your work for peace in the region. And I pray that your vision of Gaza in the future can actually come to pass. And I encourage you, keep speaking that, keep speaking hope for this region. We need it now more than ever.
Thanks for having me.